Good evening. I wanted to take a couple minutes of your time this evening to give you an update on the largest natural disaster that our state has ever seen. Federal disasters have been declared in 58 of 66 counties and 3 tribal reservations. As South Dakotans, we're used to extreme weather, but the persistent wet weather starting with the bomb cyclone in March and the heavy rain every few weeks since then has created a slow-rolling natural disaster of epic proportions. Just last week, Madison received over 11 inches of rain that they didn't need. The flooding that's followed has destroyed homes, roads, and businesses. Montrose, Del Rapids, Renner, Mitchell, so many other communities are experiencing the same issues, some for the second time this year. We've had dams fail, we've had culverts that have been blocked by floating 1-ton bales of hay. We've had sections of state highways wash away overnight and vehicles fall into the rushing water. According to the National Weather Service, broad areas of Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Nebraska have received precipitation amounts of more than 400% above normal during the first 2 weeks of just September. The Upper Missouri River annual basin runoff is forecasted to hit 2 times the average by the end of the year. Last week, the State Department of Transportation closed I-90 due to flooding as well. This closure was unprecedented. Since President Eisenhower announced the interstate project in the 1950s and the major east-west artery through our state was built, it hasn't been closed because of excessive rain. That's just not supposed to happen. This much water this fast can be dangerous. It can injure and it can kill, and it has. Losing even one person in these storms is too many, but I'm thankful for our first responders and our emergency management teams and their tireless efforts to keep us safe. Our city, county, and state leaders across South Dakota, they have moved frontline resources to where they're needed each and every time that we've had extreme weather this year. They are some of the most selfless, hardest working leaders in our state. Oftentimes their own home was flooding too when the water came, but they were in the Emergency Operations Center helping other people, protecting our infrastructure, and keeping people safe. As I have seen the devastation firsthand and talked to folks, I'm getting a lot of the same questions over and over. So let me share some of the information that we have and that you could use tonight. First of all, disaster response begins and ends with the local response. That's the process the federal government requires, and it has worked well for us in the past. As I mentioned, our local emergency managers know their communities like the back of their hands. So when things get bad enough to need backup, the state comes in to work with the local government. We assist to help locate resources in other communities. We provide inmates to help with filling sandbags and cleanup. We also help assess the damages and request a federal disaster declaration when needed. We've had 1 federal disaster declared this year and 3 additional requests that are pending with the president, together totaling $56 million in requests so far. The flooding that we're experiencing right now will likely reach a level where I will request yet another federal disaster declaration from the president. Federal disaster dollars are never as timely as we would like, but we appreciate the responsiveness that we've seen so far. I also get a lot of questions about utilizing the National Guard, and we've done that this year as well. When a rural water line washed out in a creek bed this spring and 8,000 individuals in Oglala, Dakota County were without water, I ordered the National Guard to send soldiers and trucks with large freshwater tanks on them to help distribute water until the line was fixed. The decision to call up the National Guard is never an easy one. As governor, I'm committed to utilizing these citizen soldiers judiciously. From a military readiness perspective, as well as from a cost perspective, we must call up these soldiers when no other suitable options are available. Oftentimes, other resources such as DOT trucks or inmates are better, more affordable fit for the need. And additionally, some have started making calls for a special session of the legislature. I do not see the need for a special session at this time. As the latest flood waters recede, I know that we will find significant public infrastructure damage. Maintaining and restoring our roads and bridges is critical for our commerce. Sewer systems are necessary. The restoration costs will be immense. That said, our state has the funding mechanisms in place to respond to the disasters that we face. There is no doubt that we will have tough discussions and decisions about our budget come January, but I don't see the need for any new legislation that would require a special session today. If that changes, I will be the first one to inform the public and the legislature. I've also called for the Secretary of the Department of Transportation to work with state engineers and others to ensure that our interstates are never closed again for flooding. We just can't have that happen. Our population is too spread out, and when we lose the ability to travel on interstates and major highways due to flooding, we are compounding the disaster. In the era of big data, we can and we must be able to plan for the worst case scenarios when it comes especially to rainfall and to weather. So finally, the question that I get asked the most often that makes me proud to be a South Dakotan is a simple one. How can I help? Neighbors helping neighbors. It's our history. It's the spirit of our state. If you want to help right now, there are many resources available. There are national disaster recovery groups helping, as well as local resources like 211. Over the longer term, I have my team looking and enhancing our state disaster response portal to connect our volunteers and our resources with local efforts at disasters. For example, if you have a couple of days of time and a chainsaw, then the goal would be to connect you with those who need help in Sioux Falls after the tornado. The stories of neighbors helping neighbors that we hear about are just amazing. You know, after that tornado hit Sioux Falls, I heard about a man named Mike who spent his weekend driving around town responding to 211 requests for help, just stopping at other spots where it was obvious that a helping hand would be appreciated. He helped fix a flat tire on an old tractor that was being used for cleanup. He took loads of branches and trees to the disposal center, and he helped an older gentleman who lived in an apartment clean up in a couple of hours what that man thought was going to take him a month. Mike helped a lot of people in just one day. He wasn't after anything for himself. He concluded his recap of the day by saying, "A firm handshake and a sincere thank you is good enough." There have been a lot of Mikes helping this year across our great state. It makes me so proud to be from South Dakota. In closing, the wet weather that we're experiencing this year will set records. We are living history right now, and we're not fully through it yet either. Forecasters are now saying that even if we have an average moisture fall and winter, we could be dealing with major flooding again this spring. It's tough to think about even more flooding next spring as we continue to deal with cleanup right now. But like I said earlier this year, the storms are strong, but South Dakotans are stronger. We will get through it. We always do. We can get knocked down, but we don't stay down. It's in our blood. For as long as people have made their way across the plains and called South Dakota their home, we have struggled against extreme weather and a tough environment. But that's what makes this place so special, along with the people who do call it home. It takes effort to get here and to live here. You don't just end up here. To be a South Dakotan is to be someone who consciously chooses to make this place your home and to thrive here. And I couldn't imagine living anywhere else. So thank you for taking the time to tune in. Stay strong. Thank you, and may God bless South Dakota.